Howdy, folks. Welcome to 2X Labs. I am your host, Dr. Erica Miley. I'm bringing somebody to you who's like OG, helped me in my therapy business building life. We get to be friends and talk back and forth on Instagram. But how I came to Allison Puryear is through the Abundance Party way back in the day, probably 7 years ago. And I just am so glad that you're here. I want you to introduce yourself so I don't gush too much. Thanks for being on 2X Labs with me.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Yeah, I'm Allison Puryear. I am a private practice therapist, have a group practice, and help people all over the world start and optimize their private practices. And I've been doing that for a decade now, the optimizing and starting a practice piece, and been in private practice since 2005.
You're a rock star. And I have personally benefited from that rock star-ness.
Yes.
So we're actually not going to talk about practice building today.
Nope.
This is something that I reached out to you because we share a strange trauma for different reasons. We're going to be talking about how to recover from dealing with natural disasters today as a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
This was something that no one prepared me for.
No.
This was something that I had no idea how to manage. For me, I'll be talking about my experience with Hurricane Ian while living in Florida, which I no longer live in Florida because of. And you'll be talking about Hurricane Helene and then the flooding as a result of that. I only think, actually, one of my colleagues said to me today before you and I started recording, she was like, with climate change, this is something that we should be talking about as therapists. How do we
Yes.
handle these things? How do we recover after these natural disasters? So I really want you to do the best you can. Obviously, we got some tissues. We got ways to deal with some of the
Ready
tears
to
that
go.
might come as a result of this. Talk a little bit about your experiences with Helene and maybe other natural disasters you've been through.
Yeah, so Helene was my first major natural disaster. And we knew it was going to be bad. There had been a huge, two hurricanes back to back about 20 years ago. And everybody was like, God, it could be as bad as that. And that had flooded so much. The River Arts District, which is a really beloved part of our city, was completely destroyed then. My husband was living here at the time. I wasn't. And he helped clean up and things like that. Like, he worked at the Biltmore Estate. So he's like, imagine a field with just like a piano and a refrigerator and like just the most random stuff in it and like gas tank situations. That's kind of what we were gearing up for. Our house is in a place where I was like, we're not low, like we're not near a river. There are lots of rivers here. We're not in a holler, but I was really worried about my parents who live in a holler on a creek with a waterfall.
And so you might want to explain to the people who like live on the West Coast what a holler is.
Y'all don't know what a holler is. So I'm in North Carolina where we have hollers, and they are like these little. You just kind of like you're going down a road, and then you go down a road. If that makes sense, like you're going you're heading south, but you are going down a hill into a place where there are usually a few homes. So in their holler, there are only 2 homes in theirs. Theirs, and then a house that is like somebody's summer house. They live in Florida full time. So, and my parents live in a trailer. And I thought, this is a very squishable house surrounded by trees on this rushing creek.
Yes.
And last time there was a big storm, their bridge washed out, and we had to like throw boards across to get them like to our house to get them to safety. So because there was this huge rainstorm before the hurricane hit, we knew it was going to be bad. There was already some minor flooding comparatively in the city. But I had to really, my dad, who I love with all my heart, is the most stubborn man you've ever met in your life. And I had to scream at my dad. I've never yelled at my dad in my life. I had to like scream at him to get him to come. And so he and my mom came and stayed with us. We've got 2 kids, me and my partner, my parents staying in our house, which is brick. So I feel like we're solid, we're good.
Mhm.
Um, we woke up at 5 in the morning with something hitting the house. I don't know how in depth you want me to go with this. I can tell the whole story of
I
it,
I
but I don't
mean,
know.
tell the story.
Okay.
We'll just tell everybody, like, trigger warning right now. This might be one of those times where you skip this episode, or if you it might be something that's too close, or you might need to listen so that you understand, like, what what we're facing.
Yeah. Yeah. So we hear something hit the house. Joel and I go downstairs. We have this room that has one window, and then it's attached to a room that is all windows. It's also attached to another room that's all windows where my father's sleeping. And so we're just watching out these windows in like the safest room, and it's getting really scary. And we start seeing trees fall. We have this huge walnut that is taller. It's about a 4-story, 5-story tree. Huge. It's been there well over 100 years. We watch it fall down. Thank God it didn't fall on our house because it would have absolutely destroyed it and maybe killed one of us. But it fell the other way. Our across the street neighbor has 4 trees fall on it. And I'm texting with our next door neighbor, Risa, who is elderly and alone. And we're texting back and forth, and she's okay. And then we watch this tree fall on her house, and she stops responding. And it's too crazy to go check on her. Like, because trees are just falling left and right.
You were having to make the worst choice right then.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
And
worst
meanwhile,
choice.
like, we've woken up the kids, we've woken up my parents, we're all in this safer room. And we have this one tree in the backyard that is the same size as the tree in the front yard that fell. And it is huge. And it is starting to look like it's leaning, but we're not sure if we're just imagining it. But the
Yeah.
ground is so wet. And this is an area where the ground doesn't get this wet. And so we all decide to go in the basement for a while. My parents have, this is like such a weird thing about our area that we talk about now, because this is the thing about disasters, things that didn't matter. My parents have Verizon, and we have AT&T, and their phone system goes out like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ours goes off about 30 minutes later, and none of us have cell phone service for days.
I think that's worth repeating. Things that don't matter all of a sudden matter. We
Yeah.
experienced exactly the same thing with
Yeah.
Hurricane Ian. That it was like there were certain people who continued to have cell service, and then there were people who lost it immediately. And it just
Yeah.
depended on which carrier it was and which cell tower was impacted. And you just had no idea how it was going to go.
Right. And I think what was really wild for a lot of us, because no one in Asheville could get out physically. We couldn't get out. No one could get in for a couple days, and nobody had cell service, and nobody had internet. I think there might have been
You went back to 1992.
right. Absolutely. Well, it
Mm-hmm.
reminded me. So I worked disaster relief for Hurricane Katrina in '95, and it was very much like that. Like we're listening to the radio.
Yeah.
Which we have in our cars, which I forgot about. Like we had neighbors listening to the radio and telling all of us, and we didn't realize till like a week later we could have been listening to. But like we're listening to the radio, trying to find out what's going on. You
Yeah.
have the food that you have in your fridge, which no longer has
Yes.
any electricity.
Yep.
But all the food went bad at the grocery stores.
Mm-hmm.
No one can get in with fresh supplies.
That's right.
And my mom is an artist. She had a studio in the River Arts District. And she's like, I'm sure it's probably like, we're going to have to muck out some mud, but it'll be fine. We finally see a picture somehow. I guess, I don't know who got service for a second. That was another thing. We'd get like blips of service and get like 50 text messages that we couldn't reply to because then it was gone again.
Of course.
But there is a picture of her building, which is a 2-story building. And the entire thing was underwater. So my mom is in her 70s.
Yeah.
This is her life's work. These
Yeah.
are the tools she has collected since she was 18 years old. All the things that she has created from her soul are floating around underwater, getting broken.
Yeah.
So like and then all the good things you hear about after a disaster, right? Everybody's like, the community really came together. Our street, we lost over 100 trees on our street. It's not a big street. They're like 30 houses. A third of the houses had trees in them. And everybody who had a chainsaw came out with a chainsaw, and everybody who didn't have a chainsaw is clearing limbs. And the kids are like, we're walking around looking at the disaster in our neighborhood as much as we can. There's more trees on the ground or on the asphalt than there is asphalt.
Yes.
So you're always walking on trees until they're getting chopped down or chopped apart. And everybody's sharing what they had. Like for anybody listening, you can make a damn good frozen pizza on a grill.
Yes, you
So
can.
good.
Yes, you
And
can.
that's one of the things we learned. And so everybody's sharing supplies as people are starting to be able to leave, because I
Mhm.
think after 2 or 3 days, people could get out of Asheville. So a lot of people did. Um, they're like, here, this is what was left in our freezer. We hadn't opened it. And
Mm.
so we got like a bunch of food. And we were staying. We also did not have water. That's another really
Mhm.
important thing. We had no electricity. We had no water, um, no cell service, no internet.
Mhm. I think that this is hard for people to imagine
Yeah.
because they assume that, okay, well, in my area I would have access to this or that, and the reality is that until something like this happens, you don't know. And
Right.
growing up, I grew up in fire country. I grew up in Northern California. So the preparing for fire season, which has only gotten worse,
Mm-hmm.
was something that we did every single year, much like hurricane season in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
In a little bit different ways. But when you live in an area that's small, everybody might be on a well, and you
Yeah.
can't get water because it requires electricity to run that well.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
not like a bucket and a pulley system like
Right.
from a
Right.
very long time ago. And
Yeah.
so you won't have access to those things. An entire community won't have access to any of those things.
Right. And what's interesting is now everybody wants a well in Asheville. Like if you're moving, you're
Mm,
asking if there's a well, because if you have a generator, you have water. And
yes.
so we in Asheville were without clean water. We got some water that we could like flush toilets. So like we did have
Mm,
water, but we couldn't drink it.
hmm.
Um, but we were without clean water for almost 3 months.
Yeah.
Like there was our street, our internet, like charter internet was hooked up to a generator that only held 1 gallon of gas. So someone from Chart, and this was for months, months
Yeah.
and months and months. I think it just got fixed like 2 months ago. So for about 4.5 months, water was coming out every 7 hours to refill it with a gallon of gas so that people could have
Wow.
the internet. So there was a coming together that was really beautiful. There was a
Mhm.
like supporting the people who really had some destruction, like in a way that was fantastic. We did a lot of volunteering because there were people who had it, God, so much worse than us. We had a non-leaking roof over our heads, and so many people lost their homes.
Yeah.
But everyone here knows somebody who died or
Yeah.
who lost their business or who
Mhm.
lost their job because the business was gone. Because even if a business wasn't hurt or destroyed, when you don't
Mhm.
have water and you don't have electricity for months, most small businesses don't, like, they can't handle that. You
You can't
can't.
survive it. You
Yeah.
cannot. You cannot. And there's so many people in the United States that have small businesses.
Yeah.
And you are still, all of your expenses are month to month. And if you are lucky and you have some months ahead, even then, like you can't run your business, especially if it's a restaurant.
Hmm.
Any of those types of things, you can't run it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like half the people I knew had to GoFundMe,
Mhm.
and it's like, we don't have any income coming in either. Like,
Yeah.
we're not working right now.
Hmm.
But we're still giving in a way that, like, who do you give what?
Yeah.
How do you do it? Because you want to give to everyone you love and the
Yeah.
strangers that they like, and like whoever you
Yeah.
read about on the news. Um, so the scope of destruction is so wide and so big in a natural
Hmm.
disaster. And for me, at least, it was it was before I went through it, I was like, oh, that's sad. That's so awful. I hate that they're going through that. But once you've gone through it, you realize like there's a before and after for
Yep.
me for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no doubt. I feel identically to you in that before and after part. There's before Ian and then after Ian.
Hmm.
And it was very similar in the access to nothing.
Hmm.
And I went and defended, so I'm 3 years post defense. So my dissertation defense was scheduled for the week after Hurricane Ian.
Oh, great.
Allison, they asked me if I wanted to reschedule it. I said no, because there was this like moment in my mind. I was like, no, it's not taking this from me too. Like
Mm.
we weathered the storm with friends of ours, because we were in the area of like where you would evacuate to, they were in a zone that was evacuated.
Hmm.
And so the water still got up to our driveway. Like it was
Wow.
wild to watch. And that, like, with that coming together that you're talking about, like everybody sharing the things they had, absolutely happened. But then we went to their house because they were on city water, and so
Hmm.
they had running water.
Yeah.
And so we went to their house so we could boil water at least, because our
Uh-huh.
house was on a well and you couldn't access anything.
Hmm.
So it was just a back and forth, back and forth. And the next week I go and I defend my dissertation. I don't remember doing it.
I bet.
I don't remember it.
So this is a really important thing, Erica, is like these decisions, like we can't be making decisions right after
No.
something like this. I don't remember, like we ended up evacuating to my aunt and uncle's house
Mhm.
once things started getting violent in Nashville, because
Yes.
when the resources disappear,
Yes.
like people were shooting people at gas stations, people were shooting people at grocery stores after
Mhm.
waiting in line for hours at grocery stores. So we were like, we were gonna rough it, but like I'm not roughing it with these two kids and these two older parents. So
No.
we went to my aunt and uncle's and we were there for 5 days. And I remember maybe 2 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Like my mom doesn't remember it. Like we're just like, what do we even do? So
You
like,
don't. You just, you're trying to like, it is full survival brain. There is no other experience other than survival brain.
mhm,
I have my PhD, so I successfully defended, thank goodness. But
must have worked out.
it must have worked out. But I kind of wonder. I think this is the this is a great opportunity to ask, like, what was happening at your practice at the time. But also I'm curious, before I go too far, what about your neighbor? I know everybody's going to want to know
Yeah.
what
So,
happened.
yeah. Risa was fine. She just
Oh,
had
good.
Verizon. So I mean, she was actually she
Fucking
wasn't
Verizon.
fine. She was in the room that the tree came into. And she had to leap out
Mm.
of the room in her like late 70s, early 80s, like leap out of the room onto the ground.
Wow.
But we're a neighborhood full of love. So like she insisted on staying in her house. I would go over and crank her generator every morning so that she could have her morning coffee. Like
Mm-hmm.
we all
Yeah.
kind of came together and just like supported each other in different ways. But she
Yeah.
was good. She's okay. And her roof is fixed and her chimney's fixed. And
Well, that's good.
yeah.
I'm glad to hear it.
Hmm.
We're thinking of you, Risa. So, what was happening in your practice at the time? What was going on with your clients? What was happening in the abundance party?
Yeah. So in my clinical practice and in my group practice, like we were trying to get in touch with clients. I had one client like I could not get in touch with.
Hmm.
She had Verizon. This is
Verizon, get it together.
right. But like I was really, really worried
Mm.
about certain clients because I knew they lived near water.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a while for me to like, there were days when I didn't have the phone. There were days or phone access. And then there were days when I was like, if I reach out to see if they're okay and they're not okay, I don't know that I can handle it.
Yeah.
Like I really, like I have to check on them. And also if they say something happened to their kid or, their house is completely underwater and they've lost everything, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Because I don't know where to pull from.
Yeah.
And one of our
You can't be the crisis therapist in that moment. You can't.
No.
It's not available to you.
Yeah. And one of the people that works for me, like she did have a client whose family lost everything, everything. And I mean, I didn't understand how FEMA worked and how insurance works and things like that.
Yeah.
Most of the homes that were taken out to the river weren't in a floodplain. So they didn't
Right.
have flood insurance. Like they won't give
Of
you
course they
flood
didn't.
insurance if you're on a
No.
hill, you know?
No.
And so FEMA will pay for up to $40,000 of what you lost, or 45 or something like that. I don't want to quote FEMA, but it's like, it's not
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of thousands of dollars like all the
No.
houses here cost.
Right.
And so you're
Exactly.
just shit out of luck.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're grappling with maybe your job or your business is gone, your home is
Mm-hmm.
gone, and you don't have like anything to show for it. You own the land still if if the river didn't reconfigure itself, which it did for a lot of people. You
Mm-hmm.
can't own the river. So they might have had a half an acre and now they have a tenth of an acre
Yeah.
that they can't build on. You're not allowed to build on it now because it's a floodplain.
Yeah.
So a lot of people got really, and it's also not FEMA's job to build our houses for us necessarily. Like they did help.
Yeah.
And I really hated the rhetoric that like the federal government wasn't doing anything. I got into so
Yeah.
many internet fights once I got the internet back that like I had to
Yes.
like have a friend hold me accountable that I was not going to do
Yeah.
that anymore.
I hear you. It was very similar for us. That was there was a lot of belief um, that I'd had to challenge after the fact, even within my own family. Like, oh, the federal government's not going to show up. No, they did. And even though I am not the biggest fan of Ron DeSantis, he prepared ahead of time, and there was they were all in staging areas preparing to help people after Ian.
Right.
And that was incredible to watch.
Mhm.
It was incredible in the way like that it shocks you how big systems move quickly.
Mhm.
And FEMA, if at no matter like who you were, they were giving people $800 cash just
Yeah.
right out the gate, just to try to get everybody gas, get everybody
Mhm.
food, get everybody whatever they could get, and then they were handing out water. There were like it was amazing to watch, and they did help.
Yeah.
FEMA helped,
Yes.
and I think at least we could be here all day just talking about like the larger systems and how what we think about them as people versus what actually happens is a very different thing. But I'm kind of curious, uh, when when was return to work for you?
I'm trying to remember. So my entire staff for Abundance is
Mm-hmm.
Asheville based also. And so like I was terrified about their well-being because these are women I genuinely love. Like they're
Yeah,
not just my employees, I love them.
of course.
Um so I was worried for them. It took a few days before we could get in touch with each other. Um different personalities handle things different ways.
Mhm.
So one of the staff members was like, let's do this, let's do that, let's go for it. It's like she's in go mode. I think if I
Mhm.
didn't have kids and my parents with me, I
Mhm.
would probably have been in go mode because that's been my mode in the past.
Mhm.
When I'm like traumatized or grieving or something like that. But I think I was just so like, felt like I'd been hit in the face with a shovel. Um, so I was like, let's slow our roll. Like we don't have access. I had one staff member driving 40 minutes to get to the internet at a coffee shop.
Mhm.
Um, I think we had like posted some things online because people couldn't get in touch with us, and I wanted them to know like you'll hear from us eventually. I can't be on that podcast I got scheduled or whatever.
Right.
Um, but I think it was at least 2 weeks before we could get back to work.
Yeah.
Which because we'd done this messaging not in the best way on the fly, people didn't know you could also like continue to buy the things that are evergreen and live and self-paced.
Right.
So we had the lowest month of income we've ever had.
Mhm.
And I wasn't able to pay myself for the entire month, so now I'm worried about money too, because we also have damage
Mhm.
to the house that turns out our insurance isn't paying for, FEMA isn't paying for because the insurance took so long. So like
Yeah.
now we have about $20,000 worth of damage to the house we got to fix. We've
Mm.
got just like getting my kids back to school eventually. Because that was another thing. Those of us on my staff who
Yeah.
have kids, it's not just their trauma, it's also like childcare.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so it took a long time to get back to work. Like I think 2 weeks I was working kind of semi part-time, and then 3 weeks I might have been back at it.
Mhm.
Because the schools had to figure out how are they going to get water or electricity, because different parts of the city, like you were talking about, different parts of the city had
Mhm.
one or the other. Nobody had
Yeah.
both.
Yes.
So yeah.
I hear you. It feels like a jumble, and then you try to. I'm kind of curious if you felt like even if you were ready then. Like I think about that when I went back to work because I essentially I drove to go get internet because all of my clients were in Washington because
Mhm.
I'm licensed in Washington and a
Right.
primary caseload is there where we live, where we back and very happy to be back to now.
Mhm.
Um, but like, I don't know that I look back at that time, it was a week and a half. And then because I was the primary income.
Right. Right. And that's the thing that was driving me crazy. Um, was people being like, well, why are therapists going back to work? It's so traumatizing. It's like, we got fucking bills to pay, man.
That's
Like,
right.
I would love to be in the privileged position. I would love all therapists to be in the privileged position of like, we've been through this very hard thing. Let's take great
Mm-hmm.
care of ourselves by like not working and not taking on the emotional burden of
Yep.
other people who've been through the same thing. But that's not reality.
It isn't.
And
It
one of
absolutely
my best
isn't.
friends, who's also the breadwinner, she's licensed in Washington and also licensed here and lives here. And she said it was always such a relief to see one of her Washington clients because they like
Yeah.
didn't have any clue, you know, like
Yeah.
they weren't tapped into like what's going on in Asheville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And so she could have like a normal therapy session instead of
Yes.
like trying to hold on to herself
Mm-hmm.
emotionally with her own stuff while helping other
Yeah.
people process their own trauma. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was definitely, for me, there was that divide because I was still licensed in Florida at that point. And
Mhm.
so there was the divide of some of those people I was holding what they experienced the same thing.
I don't know
And
if, oh, sorry, go
I,
ahead.
I don't know that that's, and I look at that now and know that I was not ready.
Yeah,
I
100%.
can, I was not ready to do it, but
Yeah,
there was bills to pay. And that is a very, very real thing. I think, if there is a therapist out there that has a privilege to be able to take the time
take
off they
off.
need from something like this, wonderful. But also the reality is that we have bills to pay.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing I saw that I'm guessing you probably saw too, we had so many therapists in our community who were like pro bono therapy, like I will offer free therapy to anybody who needs it. I'll do these
Yes.
healing groups. I'll do this or that. Like they're traumatized,
Yep.
and like I can understand. Like we're helpers, right? Like it
Mm-hmm.
makes us feel like we have some semblance of control if we can use the strength we have to help.
Yes.
And I just wanted to like take each one of them and fold them up in my arms and ban them
Mm-hmm.
from seeing pro bono clients right now.
Correct.
Because the other
Correct.
therapists in North Carolina who were not affected can do that shit.
Exactly. Exactly. Once I did get internet back, I did something very similar. I told therapists who were affected, I was like, don't do pro bono work right now.
Yeah,
We don't have to be the ones. Let the people who don't have they have access to water and the storm wasn't that bad and actually kind of missed them. Let them do the pro bono work. Let them
right.
take the reins this time.
Yeah.
It's okay. You do not have to.
Mm-hmm.
Not right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get the next one.
Yeah. And it's all like it's this mix of like wanting to be useful because I remember feeling
Yeah.
desperately like I wanted to be useful and we volunteered our asses off because I got a little
Yes.
intense about it. And it was the
Sure.
manual labor volunteering that did the best for me.
Yes. That
Like
kind of volunteer work.
yes.
Yes. Do it. It has nothing to do with holding space for the same trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
So that's maybe instruction number one for all of you listening. Do not do pro bono work. Do not do therapy pro bono work during the time right after recovery.
Right. Right. I think if it's like my employee whose client lost everything, that
Yeah.
was our exception. Like we still
Yeah.
see that client pro bono.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. But let's not seek out new clients pro bono when like
Exactly.
ultimately what your soul actually needs is a break.
Hmm.
Let's not add more.
Well, and ultimately, like, I think there's we can take the cue from the Red Cross here. This is when the Red Cross actually they try to get therapists from other places to
Mhm.
come to a natural disaster
Yeah.
zone because it didn't impact you directly, so that you can help the people that it did.
Yeah. That's what I did post Katrina. And this was
Yeah.
before social media, right? And they told
Yes.
us, don't go home and watch the news. You can't do this job
Yes.
and watch the news and take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then fast forward, 20 years or yeah, 20 years almost. And
Mm-hmm.
like we're all doom scrolling social media, doing our job, having just experienced it ourselves. Like
Yeah.
it was like we set ourselves up accidentally. Like our culture
Yeah.
set us up to not
Yes.
be able to move through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We actually, my husband and I talked a lot about that during the time. We tried to keep each other accountable for when we did get access to TV and the news again. because every time we would see places that we love
Mhm.
completely destroyed, and we
Yeah.
would just weep,
Yeah.
and like we would just have to be out of it. We just would have to not watch it because every time you go to the grocery store, you're seeing it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's something I want people to understand. We're 6.5 months out, which is still very
Yeah,
early for disaster recovery.
absolutely.
Every single place I go, I see
Hmm.
destroyed buildings. Like
Yes.
I passed through an area that was completely demolished,
Hmm.
and I need to go through there to get anywhere I go in town.
Yeah.
So seeing caved in buildings, seeing like completely like there's just the flatness of a foundation where there used to be a restaurant we went to, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
impacts you day to day. I was like, well, I guess this is just exposure therapy, but it's not. It's not
No,
exposure therapy. I mean,
it's
I'm less
not.
impacted by it now, but it's still,
Yeah.
it's an erosion
Hmm.
every time I have to drive through it.
Absolutely. Uh, but when we left, because we left, we were very clear because we were already thinking about moving away from Florida, but we were like, okay, we'll take the next 2 years, we'll get ready. And then Ian happened, and we were like, no, before the
Hmm.
next hurricane season, we will not do this again. We
Hmm.
will not do this again.
Yeah.
Um, and before we left, there were still blue tarps everywhere, and it
Oh,
was a
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
There were still signs that were never replaced. There were still buildings that had never recovered. There were still trees down. It was a year.
Hmm.
And of course, the recovery things were happening, but it takes such a significant amount of time to recover from something this large.
Hmm.
So, I mean, you're only 6.5 months out. What has the grief process looked like, and where are you now?
Ugh. I cry every time I talk about it still.
Yeah, of course.
Um, like there's that survivor's guilt that I definitely feel. There's also a lot of anger at
Hmm.
how like some recent policy changes have happened that have halted our ability to recover as a community thanks to some executive orders. Um and so like just feeling like you literally came here right after the disaster and
Hmm.
told us you were going to take care of us in the way the federal government wasn't currently. And the second you got elected, you bent us over. So I'm angry. And you know, I know someone who died. I know like hundreds of businesses have closed. Places that we loved. Places
Yeah.
where we knew the owners, you know.
Yeah.
Um it's been hard. It was hard for therapists because, you know, when you've got an entire community who just lost their income or who just
Yeah.
lost whatever, like you want to extend it to make it affordable for people and
Hmm.
like you can't because you also have to live. So it's, I mean, we were just like the 6 month anniversary, I think was on Good Morning America or something like that, which I appreciate. But we
Hmm.
fell out of the news cycle like that.
Yes.
You know, my mom just moved into a new art studio. It took this long. That's how she processes,
Yeah.
is to be able to do art.
Yeah.
So trauma wise, it's still there. I know that it's impacting me on ways I don't recognize right now. Um, and I know that it impacts my energy level to have to see destruction, to be
Hmm.
reminded of places and people we've lost.
Yeah.
Um, and I think too, like there's always such an uproar. Anytime they're like, this many people died, everybody over here freaks out because they're like, that's not the right number. We still have
Yeah.
so many people missing. And if a tractor trailer can be like torn to bits during these raging floodwaters, what do you think happens to a human body? And how does that get found under all this mud? So I think there's like a depth of emotion that I can't even get to yet. And same for my clients. You know, like we'll be talking about something totally different and
Hmm.
then it'll trigger something Helene related.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's all just like woven in. And it's a before and after for everybody in such a way
Hmm.
that it's almost like people in therapy will talk about it like back when I thought I had problems before Helene, you know, like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I think there was it was very interesting because I we had been through smaller hurricanes before in
Hmm.
Florida. And like what you were talking about, like the things that would bring up Ian were kind of a variety of different things during that period of time. But I also think back now, because we're 3 years post Ian at this point.
Hmm.
Um, and now I understand my friends around me in Florida, they had markers from certain hurricanes that they
Hmm.
had experienced, like the larger hurricanes, and they would compare it to those feelings from those hurricanes. And I that felt familiar to me from having been through fires.
Right.
Like there were fires in my mind that marked time.
Hmm.
And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. This Helene will mark time in a way that it has so many emotions and so many things that have happened, so much loss that have happened around it,
Hmm.
that it will continue to mark it. There's no doubt. In October, I still have to remind myself I now live in a place where there isn't a hurricane season. I
Yeah.
have to like go, oh, no hurricane season. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's
And
okay.
I'll say too, I'm realizing coming out after you say that, I don't want to, I'm not trying to say like it could happen to you, but like we're in the middle of the mountains, thousands of miles away from
Yep.
the ocean. Like we're way inland.
Yes, you are. And
And
I think that brings up the climate change part of this.
yeah, yeah,
That
that
the
this is
the
going to be more of us.
yes, more of us in places that never experienced it before.
Yeah. We have been dubbed like a climate haven, is what our city
Mm-hmm.
was called until
Yeah.
this. Like it
Yeah.
was real estate agents use that term, like it was all over the place
Yeah.
because we were pretty immune to most of these things. And then, we just had a bunch of wildfires because we have all these downed trees from Helene that have been curing for 6 months.
Yeah.
And so we just lost thousands and thousands of acres to these terrifying wildfires. It's just like, we're all like, not again. I can't
Yeah.
handle it again. But like, the
No.
fact of the matter is, it's going to continue.
Yes.
Like, nowhere is safe.
Nowhere is safe. And I think that that's really, really, really important. We know for a fact, I mean, both my husband and I grew up on the West Coast. Fire is a very real part of our existence out
Yeah.
here. It
Yeah.
is a very, very real part of it. And so we don't get to say we are completely safe.
Hmm.
We might be safe, maybe, from a hurricane.
Hmm.
Maybe. We are 6 hours from the coast, but that doesn't mean that some large storm, some
Right.
large fire doesn't come and change the landscape
Hmm.
again. So I do want to talk about like what do you think have been, especially maybe right after in the immediate aftermath, what were some of the clinical and ethical challenges? We've already talked about maybe we shouldn't have been doing the work at all, but
Right.
it is what it is. Like loss of records is what I'm thinking.
Hmm.
Technology. You've already talked about contact with clients, but any of those other things?
Yeah. I mean, we were lucky. There wasn't any, I expected my office to be flooded but not destroyed. But it wasn't because they
Mm,
had just shorn up some of the irrigation, which is
mm,
wild. Um, so, and like, I use a cloud anyway, so it all would have been fine. I just might have lost my computer or something, but that piece was fine. It was more that clinical piece of making sure all of our clients were safe and
mm-hmm.
understanding and honoring what limits I could and what I could actually provide. That was the hardest part for me because I had nothing to give.
Yeah,
Like,
zero in the tank.
and it felt like when COVID first started,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm just sitting across from my clients, like, what the fuck? And they're like, what the fuck? And you just say it back and
Yes.
forth. And like, you have to like remember, like, I am the therapist. I got to get clinical. I got to help them
Mm-hmm.
process their trauma. We're feeling the same thing. We're having the same experience. And it's my job to like pony up and do what I need to do in this session, even though I don't know
Mm-hmm.
where I'm pulling it from.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that this is like that trying to pull it from the empty tank. And sometimes I remember at least in some moments just being able to sit together and go, what the fuck was clinically appropriate?
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
Um like what is happening, what just happened. But I wonder how do you think you found that boundaries shifted
Mm.
during the disaster and afterwards?
Yeah. So I think clients asking after me, wanting to make sure,
Yeah.
like, if I'm like, are you okay? Are you safe? Like, this question that we ask here of like, how'd you do during the storm? That's how we phrase
Mm-hmm.
it here for some reason. How'd you do during the
Mm-hmm.
storm? And that's more like, did your house get destroyed? Did your car
Yeah.
get crushed?
Yeah.
So like I'd ask them and then they'd be like, how about you? Like, how are your kids? They know I'm a mom. How are
Mm-hmm.
your kids? And it's like, when you're so tender already,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here we are
Yes.
6.5 months later, and I'm still, crying about it every time I talk about it. To have someone look at you with genuine care
Yeah.
that you have been caring for and
Mm-hmm.
saying, like, how are your kids? It's like, I want to be like, God, it's so confusing. Like, one's doing this and the other's doing this, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
handling it this, but I couldn't,
No.
I knew not to fall into that trap. I could just be like, they're managing like everyone else. So it
Yes.
took considerably more effort to like
Yes.
maintain a boundary. And I,
Mm-hmm.
aside from COVID, there's never been another time in my clinical life that I just wanted to like chuck boundaries out the window because it took so much effort to hold them, you know?
Yes. That the emotional and physical effort that it takes to actually show up and do this work
Yeah.
and hold a boundary. But it almost even sounds like it had those boundaries did have to be more flexible
Yeah.
because they're showing you true human empathy back.
Hmm.
And so for you to say, yeah, my kids are okay.
Yeah. And just say like,
They're
my house is okay. Like
yes.
I can answer that question that like
Yes.
we have minimal damage.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of being like, well, what would my answer mean to you? You know,
Yeah,
like,
no. Okay, this is another one of those uh very specific instructions I think we need to give to our audiences. Do not say that. Don't say that.
yeah,
Don't do it. It's okay for you to give the smallest amount of details
yes,
and
yes,
let them know that their human empathy is okay to have.
yes, absolutely.
They
Yeah,
give a shit about their community, and that includes you.
absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Oh, and seeing clients while volunteering. That's another thing that happens
oh,
boundary wise.
talk about that.
Yeah. So just like, I've got my two kids with me.
Uh-huh.
We're all like doing a fireman's pass, which is where like the person to the left of you hands you the 25-pound thing of water bottles and you hand it to the next
Mm-hmm.
person and that gets it where it needs to go, people to people. And you look down the fireman's line and you're like, oh. And you just make eye contact and you smile and you nod and you haven't showered for 5 days because there's no
Mm-hmm.
water. And
Exactly.
your kids are tired and grouchy and not exactly excited to be volunteering yet again, but their mom has an
Mhm.
issue. So yeah. So it's like that happened. And
Yeah.
it's something we could talk about once we were in therapy the
Mhm.
next time. And it came from this place of like, God, it felt really good to sweat and to like know
Yes.
that we were helping people who weren't as lucky as us from
Yes.
like housing perspective. So
It- I think you're onto something. I just want to, you know, I know I don't have to fix this for you, but as a kid who was raised by a mom like you and growing up in fire country,
mhm,
like the volunteer work we did as kids, I truly believe, yeah, we became helpers, my
mhm,
sister and I, in different ways. She's a wildlife biologist and has her red card and works with wildlife around fires.
uh-huh.
Like, it's so clear, like, oh, yeah, my mom raised some helpers.
Thanks, Mom.
But as a kid, it did help me feel less afraid
Hmm.
because I saw my community
Mhm.
and I could help my community.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think being of service when you're 9
Hmm.
or 8 or 11 is how old my
Yes.
kids were, like they can't solve the financial problems of these
No.
people, but they can help carry some water. They can put
Yes.
together some hygiene kits,
Mm-hmm. They helped
and
my son during after Ian went with his scout troop and they cleared branches from elderly people's yards
yeah.
and did their best to like lend a hand. And I have never seen that kid feel more empowered,
Hmm.
like, and feel like I didn't have to tell him twice.
Right. Yeah.
it's this physical action of something you can do when you face something so scary.
Yeah. I think there's such merit to it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's there's a lot of powerlessness, and I think I'd rather scrabble for my own sense of power by like moving some shit than lots of other ways that are probably a lot less healthy.
Yeah, fair. And we could be talking more about vicarious trauma, compassion fatigue, all of the things, but I want some practicality
Mm-hmm.
for folks. Like when you've been coming back to work, coming back to your practice, from some really practical steps,
Mm-hmm.
what were your first steps in rebuilding your practice or coming back to it? Tech, physical space, referrals, documentation, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So we had the internet at the office long before we
Mm-hmm.
had it at home, but we didn't have water at the office. So I was
Mm.
seeing people virtually, or they could come here, but they just had to understand they couldn't pee.
Mm.
We all brought bell jars to pee in.
Yeah.
Like that was part of my going to work backpack.
Yeah.
It was
The
like,
pee jar.
here's my pee jar.
Mm-hmm.
So, or ball jars, I should say. Yeah. So we peed in jars, and that's part of how we got by. So there's like the practical pieces of like what's actually available.
Yes.
There's bracketing. Like I'm such a proponent of bracketing. I have done this my whole career of when life is hard. I'm like, okay, I'm going to come back to you hard thing at 5 o'clock p.m. Even if I'm having a great day, then I am going to make the space for you and I am going to fall apart and I'm going to do that until it's out of my system. And until then, I'm going to sit here and be in my client's life. And
Yeah.
that has always, always helped me. But I had to learn. I actually had to come back to it at 5 o'clock. I can't just say it because that's stuffing it
Mm-hmm.
down. Um,
Yes.
so I think bracketing as best you can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, lowering your standards. Your therapy is not going to be as good. Your notes are not going to be as good. They
Nope.
might not get done for months. Fuck it.
Correct. Correct.
um,
Same.
yeah.
That was exactly the way it was for me. I do think there's the power in bracketing. I want to remind people about this. Because I think there's a lot of criticism from lots of different evidence-based practices, especially CBT right now. There's a lot of therapists who are like, we got to be like, let's be more critical of CBT, but there's certain things that are really, really effective in crisis work.
Hmm.
And bracketing is one of them, especially for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this now, and then I'm going to let myself have this later, and promise yourself that you come back to it, and you have to come back to it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I love some bracketing.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Yeah.
Nervous system recovery. What
I'm
did you
still,
do?
what? I don't know, Erica. I'm still working on it. I think part of it, like of
Mm,
course, this didn't coincide with a very calm moment in life. Of course, there
I
were
know.
already a lot of things going on and continue to
Yeah.
be, because life is never as steady in my life as I seem to want it to be, or
Yeah.
don't want it to be, because I keep adding
Acceptance and
shit.
commitment therapy is killer for this, for
Yeah,
yourself. Like, accept
absolutely.
that suffering is happening and it's coming.
Right. And that's the default of life. And if I can, like,
Yes.
I have accepted for years and years, the default of life is that it's
Mm-hmm.
hard. And we
Yep.
have these moments of respite from it, and we have these moments
Mm-hmm.
of beauty, and life is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think talking to my friends has been really helpful. My friends who live here who went through it, my friends who don't live here who, like, I have a friend who also went through Ian.
Mm-hmm.
And even there's this thing where we just had a friend who moved away from Northern California because after a decade of fires, she's like, I can't keep doing
Mm-hmm.
this. And she was visiting us last week, and just driving different places, I found myself wanting to drive her through the worst places. Like, look what happened to us. I need you to
Mm.
validate that this was awful. I need to hear, oh my God, this was so much worse than I thought, you know? So there's like still this part of me that wants and needs other people to see how bad it is. And I haven't fully like gotten underneath
We're
that.
losing the internet a little bit for You, Allison, hold on.
I've got all bars. I don't know what's happening.
There we go. I can hear you, but then
Okay.
it kind of comes in and out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, but then let's give it a second.
Weird.
Come on, internets.
Doing
You're
its
only
thing.
6.5 months out.
Ah.
There it is. It's coming back. It's
Okay.
coming back.
Come on.
There we go. I think I can see and hear you now.
Okay, cool.
You were saying that you wanted to take a friend through the areas that were the worst affected.
Yeah. I want the
And
validation that it's awful for some reason from an outsider. Like, I
yes.
want someone to be like, God, I can't believe so many of you lived through this. This is awful. Especially
Yeah.
somebody who's been through a disaster, like who gets it. So
Absolutely.
it's interesting. Like I haven't gotten underneath what all that, like why I want that validation. Cause I know it was awful. All my friends here know it was awful, but it's like, it's not quite like disaster porn, like I don't want to be like, ooh, look at this building. It's more like, this is where I used to love to go on date night. And it's gone now. This is where my mom's studio was. And it got completely
I mean,
ruined.
when I hear you say that, uh, I think about narrative therapy. And it's you're trying to understand the narrative of what happened to you, but the narrative of what was before and what is now after. And I think that the validation of now you have to, without any permission, if you could have planned this, you would not have planned a hurricane to come through and then all of the flooding to happen. So you're reauthoring.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. So we definitely got some narrative, some CBT.
Yeah. Oh, we're hitting all the hits.
Yeah.
So
I'm doing some IFS around it, like here's my part that still feels like I'm scared in that room, like
absolutely.
who doesn't trust that anything's safe anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's not like a traumatic experience that is the trauma is so pervasive in the entire environment. And this isn't a car accident that has happened to just you.
Right. Right. It's every time you see someone you haven't seen since the storm, you ask, how'd you do? And it's like there's a preciousness, like there's a holding one another that happens in those conversations. And sometimes physically, just like, it feels so good. I hugged so many people I've never hugged before. Like,
oh, I'm sure. I am glad you are alive. I am glad you're okay.
Yeah.
So this is, I'm sure this is going to be a question that just evolves over time. What do you wish you had in place before the disaster?
Well, I wish I had messaging in place, which we now have in abundance. Because I posted something about like, I've heard from all these people, like these people that work for me, but not this one person that works for me. And like people who know her got really scared. Like people who know her because of abundance were like emailing her and things like that. So she got flooded with all these emails from people. She's like, could you please not make it sound like I died? I'm so sorry. So messaging of like just more appropriate, more thoughtful, not done from trauma messaging. So that I wish that I had more money in reserves, both business and personal. I wish I had more emotional reserves because I was already dealing with some hard things that I was pushing through everything. I probably should have taken more of a break with work because of some life stuff going on, but I am a pusher. And so I just kept pushing through. So I was already like at 98% capacity. I didn't have the space I needed to like not feel like I was going to crack sometimes. Yeah. So I think those are the things I didn't have in place that I wish I'd had in place. The things I did have in place that I'm really glad I had in place were like, I have a really good support system. And I used them a lot. I did not shy away from using them. Particularly the people who are out of town. Yeah. And I'm optimistic by nature. So I think that just being a part of me helped me in some of those harder moments. Though the hurricane did break some sense of like just world faith, like thing in me that still isn't back.
Yeah.
I'm still optimistic, but I'm like cautiously optimistic now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm holding myself going from just saying same
Hmm.
after everything you just said. I I think the business part, the more money in business reserves, the more money in personal reserves. I absolutely would echo all of that. I think I will have I'm not sure. I'm not, and this is one of the things like I actually when I was building my helping skills class because I teach bachelor's level students, I actually make them go through a disaster like a disaster preparedness. So they actually have to navigate a disaster and what does it mean to play different roles. And one of the things that I'm still thinking through is like my essentially all of my business is still online. How do I um find ways forward and or have the backup internet? It was not I don't know, at least in with Hurricane Ian, I don't know that there was any other way than to handle it than the way that we did, which was to drive to where there was internet and where we could.
Right.
Um, I, I'm, yeah, the, yeah. Do you have any thoughts about that at this point? I just
Yeah.
don't think that there's any other way to handle it other than
Oh no.
re
Yeah, my
reporting to
internet is
people
acting up
when you
again.
actually have access.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Speaking of internet
Can you hear
challenges,
me? There you are. Okay.
eh, there we go.
Yeah. So my Starlink, not owned by somebody I want to support in any way, shape, or form, but Starlink did provide internet for all of us. You know, like our like town hall down the street had
Hmm.
Starlink. A neighbor had Starlink, so we would like gather around people's houses.
Yeah.
I'd ride my bike to town hall and like sit there and co-work with people in my neighborhood.
Hmm.
So I think they were given out. Starlink was given out in our town, but then you got to
Hmm.
pay the $100 a month or whatever. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
how generous. That's good backup if you need it before if you're not sure when your internet's coming back, because it's at least reliable.
Something that was helpful at the time was we had in the closest city to us. There were therapists there that eventually I was able to get in contact with, and I briefly, for a short period of time, rented sublet from people that had the ability to do that for like hour by hour, at least
Hmm.
until I could go to like the Comcast store had a place where we could all sit in front of it. There was a cell tower that eventually got up and we could go sit near it, which is
Hmm.
eventually what I did for a whole lot of weeks after Ian. I want to say it was like 3 months before we actually had reliable internet. I mean, we got
Yeah.
power. It was about 3 months before we got reliable internet and power back to our house.
Hmm.
And the I think there's that understanding your support system part that you said, I think is incredibly important
Hmm.
in private practice in particular, because it can be really isolating if you're solo.
Hmm.
If you're in a group practice, you might have a little less isolation, but that doesn't mean that you don't, because I know there's a lot of people in group practice who don't see each other very often. And so understanding who is in your community and maybe even who are in the communities that are close to you. What do you
Right.
think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a benefit of having like consult groups or things like that where you
Yeah.
have other therapists that you are connected with, because it can be so isolating and in a hard way, even without a disaster. Like
Hmm.
just day to day, it can be very isolating to be in private practice if you haven't set yourself up with other people you've networked with that you became friends with, or a consult group or
Yes.
whatever. So yeah, I agree. Like having friends that I could talk to about like, I just sucked ass in therapy. Like it was so bad.
Hmm. Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I mean, that's just, I don't think anybody's noticing, like, because we're all
Yeah.
sucking, because we're all doing the best
Hmm.
we can, and we just have so little to give right now. Um,
Absolutely.
and I think too, kind of something that lets us off the hook a little bit
Mm.
is right after an acute trauma, they're also like our clients aren't remembering these sessions in depth. Like they are
Yeah.
basically venting everything
Hmm.
that's gone on, and they need to be seen and heard. And
Yeah.
we can do that. I can do that. Can I have
Mm-hmm.
the most insightful question right after an event like this? No. But
No.
I can like love and support you through saying what you need to say out loud, and I can validate that
Yeah.
it was scary as hell and that things are so hard.
Yes.
Um,
And teach them their own DBT nervous system regulation
yeah.
skills and hold those things. I think that that piece of what you said earlier of the lower your standards,
Yeah.
lower them.
It reminds me of coming back from maternity leave. You know, like still not
Yeah.
sleeping. I just had to lower my standards for a little while. I was still a good therapist. I wasn't
Yes.
as good as I once was. And I got
Yeah.
back to it, you know, but you can't do great therapy without sleep.
You
So,
cannot. You cannot. Humanness is what you're saying. Remind
yeah.
yourself of your own humanness. So I so appreciate you. We're gonna do our Reddit question here in a second, but I want people to be able to find the Abundance Party because I personally benefited from it so much myself. How do people find you and the Abundance Party in the
Yeah, go
world?
over to abundancepracticebuilding.com and the parties there. You can do /party, or you can just kind of explore. We got all sorts of resources, free, paid, high touch, self-led, all of it. So,
Yeah, it is a rad tool, especially when you're starting out or if you're trying to remake something. So I've been doing this segment, this new segment, because I mean, Allison let me know that you're as much of an Reddit addiction that I have, just like you. So we're gonna answer a Reddit question, and this one comes from the Ask a Therapist subreddit, uh, and so it's harder because the reality of what you and I were going to talk about, and I posed it to him like, nobody taught me how to deal with this in grad school. Nobody taught me how to be a therapist while experiencing trauma in their trauma.
yeah.
So this is more of a general question about trauma. So trauma therapists with significant personal trauma history, what do you say when clients inquire about your personal experiences or ask why you became a trauma therapist, if these two things are directly linked?
Mhm.
What do you think?
So, I mean, I think in the context of a disaster, you know, it's a
Hmm.
different answer than in the
Yes.
context of you know, so like what I've said in the past, being asked that question, not
Hmm.
related to the disaster, is like having experienced trauma, I had to find my own path out of it. And my goal
Yes.
is for you to find your path out of it. It's not going to be the same as mine, but I
Yeah.
want you to have like feelings of safety in the way that I've found feelings of safety. So like
Yeah.
that's how I would answer that just straight up. In the
Hmm.
context of a natural disaster, I think that letting that humanness shine. Like not
Yes.
being super descriptive. Like I'm not going to tell my clients about Risa, right? I'll
Right.
tell y'all about it. but
Yes.
um but I'll say yeah, that was like a really terrifying experience and
Hmm.
I'm glad that my family and I came out of it okay. And I'm glad that you came out of it okay. Um and you know kind of leave it there like if they have further questions I'll answer them at that like level 1 disclosure pretty openly and maybe at that level 2 disclosure just
Yes.
depending on the client depending on the question but
Absolutely.
yeah
I think that answers the question very clearly in my opinion, which is it is, as we always like to say as therapists, it depends.
uh-huh.
And but also like if it really is going to shift based on whatever the trauma is.
hmm
If it is personal trauma history that isn't the atom bomb of a giant storm that everybody's experiencing, then yeah, then you will probably be less detailed.
hmm
And if it is a shared trauma history because of a disaster, that answer absolutely is going to have some details, just not all of them.
yeah yeah
And it is harder to find that line when you're going through it
hmm
together.
oh god yeah it's messy and I think that self-compassion if you over disclose
Yeah.
like you're doing the best you could
Yeah.
yeah
You're doing the best you can.
hmm
I had to explain to my Washington therapist why I was doing sessions in my truck next to a cell tower.
Right.
That was, and there's nobody around me, completely private, but I had to let them know that because then they knew that their privacy was being respected.
Exactly.
And they didn't have somebody in the back of the truck listening to their private stories. So I did have to do a little disclosure there, but
Absolutely.
it was for their benefit, not for mine.
Right. Yeah.
Which is, I think about that now, and just it feels like another time.
Yeah.
And I am rooting for you that feeling starts to come for you. That
Thank you.
starts to feel like another time.
I'm very ready.
You're still knee deep in it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still very present.
So have you seen any as we wrap up, any glimmers of hope of recovery?
Yeah. I mean, like they just finally got, I think there are only 2 more houses on our street who still have trees in the front that are down. So like we got our tree roots and a chunk of it removed last week. I remember at the time the emergency tree people were like, yeah, FEMA's going to take at least 3 months to get all this moved. And we were like, what? And here we are 6.5 months later, like, yes. I mean, I remember when the electricity came on, I just bawled my eyes out. I just bawled and like Duke Energy drove by in their truck and I like waved at them and cried. It was like,
yes. This is a strange shared experience. My husband, he was driving by the house and he took a picture of our porch light was on. And he sent it to me, and we had the smallest amount of cell service, and I saw it, and I just started to cry.
Yeah.
And everybody was watching all of the power trucks and bringing power truck people out water and trying to help as much as they could, and we're rooting for all of the people that were helping. So I'm just... I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about all of the people in your community. And I'm really sad that the news is not covering it the way that they should.
Yeah, thank you.
But we're here. We're here for you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate the conversation.
So, thank you, everyone, for listening all the way to the end. Remember, you can get a CEU for listening to this. Head over to 2xlabs.org. That's TWOXLABS.org to join the membership and get some of these CEUs. And Allison has a not boring CEUs business as well that is lovely. And so if you need that, I'll make sure that that's in the show notes. So thank you all for listening, and I'll see you next time.